Well, hello, hello. So here it is, my well, not new, but recently purchased Walther PPK. Is that also for all the gun nuts? Please excuse my trigger discipline for this episode. I'm just demonstrating the firearm because nothing's in it, as you can see. So please excuse my trigger discipline because always assume it's loaded. So, yep, this is my Walther PPK. It is a 1939 dated. See it there? There we go. See the more uncommon W, which is basically when Walther started to print the letters at the very end to distinguish them between a different police, military, and even for civilian use. Because a lot of people said that, yes, the Nazis did regulate fire ownership, that you can own a gun, a civilian can own a gun, but you have to be a party member. So, what the regulation was against basically the non-desirable. So, political SPD members, Jews, gypsies, all those such people did not get guns. But if you are a party member, you're allowed to buy a commercial civilian PPK. But this, I believe, was probably a military use because a lot, or might even civilian use, I don't know, because of that very uncommon W, is that I had no idea where this have gone to. Either some personal, could have gone to a party member, could have gone to virtually anyone, because this is a new W. So it's a very unique gun, as you can see. It is a pocket gun. People say it's Sunday Night Special, but those are usually for very cheap guns, and this thing is not cheap because, as you see, it's a nice size. But the one thing I've noticed about this gun is I think it has a problem because you just say you load your gun. Of course, you can't do it now because the magazine catches it, so I have to do that. Just say it's loaded. Now, here's the safety right here. It's ready to fire. But what if I were to pull this down? It fires the gun. I don't know if there's any other firearms because this is the first pistol I've ever bought. All my other guns ever have been rifles, so I have no idea this was with other firearms of that sort. But speaking of caliber, is that this is 32 ACP, which some people phooey 32 ACP, but unless you're facing against Hulk Hogan, that a round or two of 32 ACP will put anybody down, and plus the kickback is less than the 380, so 32 ACP is actually a great round. And people say, I actually found an article on it, is that the PPK is the 1911 of concealed carry, because people phooey because it's heavier, because this is metal. This ain't no plastic piece of shit. It's just a very well-crafted German engineering firearm. This is what this gun is. And speaking of guns, that people are trying to regulate guns, is that actually, as you know, is that Walther here in the United States, is that they started making the PPKS after 1969 after some gun regulations, which basically they slightly extended this out, the barrel length, and slightly extended the back guard right here. Because USA didn't want to import any more short-barreled guns. So that's actually in the late 60s, 68, 69, because that's 69 when they started to make the PPKS. This is an original PPK, and since it's older than 50 years, I believe the cutoff date is that this is actually, even if this is still in Germany, this could be imported in the United States because of how old this weapon is. And speaking of guns, it probably recently saw that the walkout happened the 20th, which is kind of surprise, when on Hitler's birthday, as I mentioned before, kind of, whatever. But I don't get about these kids is because that between the founding of our country in 1791 and 1994, more people died between 1995 and now in school shootings than the founding of our country in 1994. You're probably asking why I chose 1994 as a cutoff date. Is because 1994 saw a slew of regulations. Is that the school safety, I forgot the exact bill name, but it was basically a signed by Bill Clinton, passed by Congress, signed by President Bill Clinton, that basically strong-armed state schools into implementing gun-free zones. Like no-tolerance gun gun-free zones in schools. Not to mention the Brady handgun bill and the assault gun ban. All that happened in 1994. And that was supposed to save people, and yet we've seen more people die between 1990, late 1994, and now than from the founding of our country and 1994. So people are like, oh, it's probably because a lot of them happened in the 1800s and they had single-shot muskets. Well, no. Between 1791 and 1899, only about 25 people were killed in school shootings. And also, a quick side note about these school shootings, I discounted suicides and accidents because some schools actually did have shooting clubs, and misfires or something else happens and someone dies from it. So I'm talking about malicious, someone taking a gun and shooting someone. And actually, a lot of the ones from 1791 to 1994, a lot of them were just, they hated someone, like their lover was a teacher, so they came there, shot the teacher, then shot themselves. And so a lot of that was the gun crime in mainly the 1900s. So what really is the issue? We've had more regulations since 1994 on guns in the previous years, before 1994, and yet more people have died. So actually, gun regulation when it comes to school shootings is actually have killed more people than it has supposedly saved. I'd like to hear your argument against this, because you can go to Wikipedia, where I got all the tally numbers of who died in the reason, and I tallied all those up. So do plus or minus 10 for my numbers I gave as a reference, just in case, because some of them are subjective about what is an accident, all that fun stuff, statistics. But yeah. So more people have died since 1994 than the founding of our country to 1994. And think about it. In the 1920s and 1930s, you could easily buy a machine gun. That even in 1934, I believe was the day they actually had a regulation on machine guns, was basically just made sure who had it was a tax. Every time you would transfer or buy a new one, it would be a new tax. So they just saw who had it. It did prohibit anybody from buying it. Not until I believe it was the late 50s or 60s when they really started cracking down on the purchasing of fully automatic weapons. So yeah, Jacuz has argued, yeah, someone bought a Tommy gun in the 20s and hosed someone down in the 30s. But especially when it comes to school shootings, more people have died since regulations of the 90s than all the way beforehand. So, thank you for watching my video about my new pistol and about some nonsense when it comes to gun regulation. I hope not to see you in my next video, but I do expect to make another video.